What's up, everybody? Welcome to Urban Crawlers. On this video, we are going to be putting together or assembling the INJORA TRX4M LCG chassis kit. This is the universal chassis kit from INJORA, so let me just put it there. So this is the exact one that we're going to be putting together. Today, this is the second time that I'm actually making this video due to the fact that the instructions are a little messed up and everything, so I just wanted to go over what happened and explain to you guys why I'm doing the video over. So now, as you can see, this is so far away that if I put that in, it's gonna really like push that, and so I'm honestly contemplating on removing this piece and putting it on the inside and bolting it up like that. So this is not going to be a complete video tutorial. I'm not going to get to these back components. I had the whole thing assembled and then I had to take it apart. This is their document, and if you look at this, and I asked my wife and my son, and they said the same thing. These outside pieces here, or the front pieces here, look like they go on the outer side of the actual frame itself. So this is the complete frame, this is the middle. So these look like they go on the outside of the frame, which they absolutely do not. If you look at the desktop picture, you can see that they're inside the actual frame. So this was the big dilemma that I had, and now has us right to where we are now, which is basically all the way back in the beginning. So I took everything apart. I even got to the point where I got the brass skid plate in, because this is the one that I'm going to be using. So I'm just going to explain to you guys why I did it up to that point, because I seen a comment on Facebook and the guy was saying that the plates weren't lining up enough and they looked like they were bending. Let's just get to the video on what we're going to be doing. So I'm taking out all, so I have the two railing pieces, the main rails, and then you have the two rails for the front, okay? And then we're gonna have the actual, this carbon fiber piece here. Two of these. So real quick, let me just explain the way that they set up the actual bolts to use, which is actually really cool, but there's some things that they don't explain, like the bolts are included for this piece right here, okay? But they are not stated on this piece of paper. This is the only paper that comes with the thing. I'm not trying to bash INJORA, I'm just letting you guys know what the issues were that I have. So I'm going to be referring to the screws as they are numbered. Number 1, the number 2 is a bolt, is a nut. Number 3, number 4, and number 5. These are the main bolts that we're going to be using to assemble the front pieces. So the first ones that we're going to be using is 4, number 1 bolts. All right, so 4 of these. 4 of the number 1 bolts, it's going to be this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I need 4 nuts. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so right here you can see we have 1, 2 holes on the top. So 1, 2, then we have 3, 4, 5. So these 2 holes on the top is where we're going to be putting these screws in right now. These number 1 screws. So we have the 2 screws in here. Just make sure that they match, okay? Then we're going to take the front piece of carbon fiber, and it's going to have 2 holes on the bottom right there, 1, 2, and that's where we're going to put these screws, just on top like this. We're going to rotate it over on its side, and you can see the 2 screws emerging. So we're going to take these nuts, which are number 2. Now, if you're wondering how you can get these nuts on or hold on to them, you're going to have the multi-tool that comes with your vehicle. If not, you can use a needle nose pliers. It's up to you. We're just going to go from the bottom end and Give it a slight rotation just to get it started. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. And put the nut inside there. Slight rotation to get it started. So then all I'm going to do is hold on to it from the back end and get a 1.5 millimeter Allen key, and clockwise is going to tighten this down, or righty tighty if you want to. So that one's snug. I'm going to switch to the next nut and bolt and then screw that one down nice and snug. So these bolts on the other end of them, they do have nylon, so the nylon holds on by itself. You don't need anything extra to hold it on. So now this one is complete. This is going to be the passenger side for all intents and purposes. So now I have the other side, which is going to be the driver's side, and we're going to go for those 2 holes here. So I'm going to flip this backwards, so that way you can see those 2 holes there. I'm going to get the 2 screws, drop them in place. Verify that they're the same level. If they're not, just exchange them, because there are a couple of different screws. These are a little bit larger or longer, if you will. So now we're going to take this piece and connect those 2 screws to the bottom piece, just like that. All right, then we're going to rotate it back over. And again, we're going to get the multi-tool. We're going to load the nuts in the multi-tool. Get that onto place. 1, 2 rotations. Should be good enough. Get the other one in. 1, 2 rotations. Now I could hold this with the multi-tool, get my 1.5 millimeter Allen key, and then snug up the bolts. All right, so that's what we're looking at. This is the driver's side, remember? So if you hold them down opposite from each other, that's the orientation that they should be. Or if you hold them towards you, the nuts should be on the inside, the screws should be on the outside. All right, so that's exactly what we're looking at. So we got 6 of these screws together, are the number 4 screws, and then we have these different things right here. So as you can see, it only has 1 bump for the screw. The ones with the 2 screw bumps, we're going to be putting in the rear of the truck. So if you grab one of your frames, this is going to be the passenger side, or the right side if the truck is away from you. So just so you know which way I'm holding it, this is the front end piece with the bolts on the inside. So you can see exactly how I'm holding it. So now with the bolts on the inside, this is the side where I'm going to be putting this piece to line up with those 3 holes with the C clamp part facing the inside, just like the nuts that we have here. Okay, so this is going to be a 0.05 Allen key. We only need 1 for each side. Now, If you have it, use it. If you don't have it, don't use it, but I do recommend thread lock. So I have a little bit of thread lock right here. We get a little dip of that. So I'm going to go into the middle. So I'm going into the middle hole, and I'll show you guys in a second exactly how I have it set up. Okay, so you can see the 3 holes. They're perfectly lined, well, for lack of a better word, they're perfectly lined up. We have the C channels facing in on the inside, just like the bolts are, and this inner piece, so you know what side we're on. So the reason why I use thread lock is because that is going to pretty much hold in onto the metal part. It is going to be reinforced by 2 other bolts when I install the bumper in a few minutes. And I'll show you guys. So now we're still on this side. So we're going to switch over to the back. And as you see, we have 4 holes. We're going to be using the bottom and the top. And on the rear, we're going to be using this piece. Okay, so this C channel is going to be facing in, and then the other part is going to be going up against the carbon. So we're going to be using 2 screws for this one. I'm going to get 1 screw loaded up, and this is going to be the number 4 again. So all the screw heads are on the outside here. So that's exactly what I'm going to do with the rear of the vehicle, or the rear of the chassis. I'm going to get that started. I'm not going to go all the way. I'm going to drop that and get another screw, some thread lock, and then get that started and in its position. I'm going to get those snug down a little bit. So you should be able to look through with no problem. The C channel is facing in. So now if you don't want to use the thread lock, by no means, you don't have to. I just want my truck to be set up the way I want it to. So this side is complete. We're going to set it aside. Now we're going to go after the other side. So the bolts or the nuts are going to be on the inside. We want this black piece again on the inside. We're going to grab another number 4. So as you can see, the screw heads are on the outside here. So we're going to go start on the inside. We're going to get the piece, the metal piece, in position. If you want to, you could put a screw to try to keep them centered. And then we're going to get that snug. The screw should be able to fall right out depending on which size screw you put. And then when we look at it, it's going to be lined up. And give it a wipe down to get the excess off. And then we're going to go to the back of the vehicle. As you can see, I have a whole bunch of damage going on back here. A little bit of issues. Don't need to hear about that. Just to verify again, we have all the screw heads are on this side. So we're going to be going this way with this. So the screw head's on the outside. And we have our piece here with the C-clamp facing on the inside or away from the chassis. I'm going to get those two pretty snug. Give them a wipe down. Then as you can see, that's all on. Okay, so right here, depending on what you're using the chassis for, if you're using the chassis for the actual K10, so if you're using the chassis for the K10 or the F-150, this is where you're going to have to grab this other pack. Where is it? So you're going to have to grab this other pack and install it just like this, the way it says here. Okay, unfortunately, I don't have this vehicle to show you guys how to set this up. I mean, I can show you how to set it up, but I don't have the vehicle to attach it to show you that it'll connect and everything. But what I could tell you is that the ones that we put on, these end pieces that we put on the back end of this truck are skinnier than the ones that are in this plastic piece. So if you can see, they're thicker. So definitely use it as it says in the manual. So the next thing that we're going to put on is going to be this piece of carbon fiber. All right, so I want you guys to see that it has a thick piece over here on this side, and then a thinner piece over here on this side. And then pay attention to where these holes are. So I have one here and one diagonally across. So in the image, this one away from the thicker part is going to be on the passenger side rail, and this hole is going to be facing the front. So we have these two slices right here. We're going to just install that. Like that, and I'll show you guys why exactly that needs to be set up this way. So this is exactly how it should be looking. I have the two bolt heads out here. The nuts are on the inside. This piece is right here, the screw hole. The smaller ends are going to be closer to the middle of the frame than the fatter ends. So right here and right here are going to be to the outside. So now I have that set up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these two black bars. Okay, so the smaller one is going to be for the front. So we're going to set that aside. This is going to be the one for the rear. Okay, and we're going to be looking for the number 3 screws. So it's going to be these. So the number 3 screws are going to be these little stubby fat screws. And these are going to be a 1.5 millimeter. So real quick to set this up, I'm going to grab the opposite side. So again, I have the screw holes facing on this side, as you can see in the back here. So now it says to place this screw on the top first one. I'm going to go 1, 2 down and go right into this middle part, because that's where I want my bar. So you could choose to where you want your bar. I wouldn't go lower than this middle part. So I have the screw in a little bit, and then I'm gonna get that lined up. So I'm gonna back that out a little bit. I'm gonna grab my needle nose pliers with heat shrink on them to try not to scratch this, which I think that already failed. So I'm going to clamp down as hard as I can and just give this some snug. I have some overspill. So like I said, in the directions it tells you to put it on this top one. By all means, if that's what you want to do, go right ahead. I want mine here because I want it lower. So now with this piece still in its position, with this hole on this side, we're going to take the opposite piece and we're going to try to line up these two slice parts. It's lovely because it doesn't hold in together by itself at all. So I'm going to get the next stubby screw, some thread lock. I'm going to go for that same hole, which is going to be 2 down. And it's going to be the third one right in the middle. I'm gonna line that guy up. So now these guys popped out again, so I'm gonna realign these for the rear. There we go. And again, it's not holding. So now that's nice and snug. Get my needle nose. And now, as long as these are flush, we're doing good. So they're flush on both sides. This one could be pushed in a little bit more. Okay, when we put the bumper piece on, it'll really fit. So now we're gonna get the other metal piece. We're gonna grab the other two stubby screws, or two more stubby screws. And one there. So now I have the screw loaded up with thread lock. I got the bar in this hand. I'm gonna take the frame, and it says to put it right on the top one, right here. And on this one, I'm gonna, because I believe that the motor, when we put the transmission in, that the motor is gonna go right underneath this bar. So just to make sure that it doesn't interfere, I'm gonna leave it where the instructions put it. The other one I'm gonna show you in a minute why I put it where I did. So then we're gonna just turn it around. On the opposite side, we're gonna go on that first one on the corner and line it up with the bar. And we're gonna get that in place, nice and snug. Sorry for the blurriness. We're gonna get the Allen wrench. I mean the needle nose. So now the frame should be looking like this, okay? Which is really good. If you look in your kit, you're gonna have these skinny long screws that are not gonna be labeled on your owner's manual or assembly instruction manual. So grab these two skinny little screws, and you can tell them the difference because these long ones are fat, these are skinny. All right, and then we're gonna take two more of the number 2 bolts. All right, so we got 1, 2 of those there. So now if you have your factory Traxxas receiver speed control combination, this is what is going to line up in the back here. It was actually accurate on the thing. So now they tell you to put it on the top, and that's probably why, is because it doesn't line up with the way that it's supposed to be with the motor plugs facing forward. So mine has to be turned around for it to line up. But that's fine with me because it's not staying in the actual, it's not staying inside this vehicle. There's going to be a brushless system going in here. But just to show you guys, and for the time being, to get the truck running when I get it running, I have this set up for right now. So multi-tool, we're going to get the nut inside the multi-tool. So that is going to be a 1.5 millimeter screw with the nut. Get it in place on the screw that we already put through. 1.5 millimeter. So you got to be really careful with this one because you could bend those wings off because there's nothing stopping you. So you could tighten this all the way up and break it. So just be careful with that. Like this looks like it's bent up too much. Just back that out a little bit. Okay, so yours will be facing the other direction if you want it. If you want it this way, it does fit. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to take the skid plate and put it into place. So the skid plate has 1, 2, 3 holes on the top. And I'm going to reverse this because this is the front of the skid plate. So we have our frame. This is going to be the back of the frame. The front of the skid plate is going to have that extra hole. So we're going to just drop that into place. Right there, it just slides right in between the frame. So we have these two little bolts, right? And these two bolts are gonna go, so this one's gonna go into the brass skid plate. I would definitely recommend, if you're using the brass or the aluminum skid plate, the thread lock. So we have two holes here, 1, 2. We're gonna go for the smaller one. Extremely difficult to do and get recorded. So I got that one pretty much in position. We get the other screw for the other side. Some thread lock, and then we're gonna go again. Not the first hole, the second hole. So what you want to do before you leave that snug is look on the back and make sure that those, you could see right through this back hole, because that's going to go for the links when we connect the links to this thing. And now I can get it snug. So that's nice and snug. Let me get the access pieces off. So we have the skid plate on. I'm going to put my IR40 body on. And then in the description, I'll be honest with you, I think I'm going to put the front axle on. So if you're interested in that, there's going to be a hidden video links. So take a look at that. Other than that, if you're sticking around, I'm going to explain a couple of things, and then we're going to put the bumper and the IR40 on. Okay, so the skid plate itself is going to come with bolts on its own, but the actual universal chassis comes with bolts that you can use for the skid plate. So it's up to you on which bolts you want to use. You want to use the ones that come with the universal chassis, or you want to use the ones that come with the skid plate itself. It's up to you, but try not to get confused. The actual IR40 chassis is going to come with its own screws and bolts, so that's why I have these bolts still in place here. So in the IR40 build, they're going to be the little ones with the big heads on the bottom. Okay, and that's for the rear. And then we got the same ones for the front. We got 4 of them there. So let's get the front on. So that's how it's going to be orientated, with the flattest part facing down. We're going to line up those grooves on both sides. As you can see, it slides into place. And then we're gonna just be able to get the bolt to slide right in. And now this should be going seamlessly. It shouldn't be tough to get in at all. And then it just should go snug by itself. So we're gonna go again right here on the opposite side. It should fall through. Should only be biting into the actual bumper itself. So this plastic piece. And we're gonna set up all 4 of these. And we're gonna get these nice and snug, right? So if yours looks a little different here, I did file this down because I had it assembled before and it was giving me a little bit of issue. So I filed that down. So let me just remove these bolts off the back end of this hitch. Okay, so now with the hitch flapped open just like that, you can see the way I'm holding it. We're gonna just slide these into position here, so that's going to lock on just like that, and then this is going to be able to flap over and close. Alright, so let's get the first screw started. Once we line that up, and we're going to get those 2 in place. So we got 2 in, 2 more to go. So there you go, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're gonna go on the opposite side. We have 1 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now you should be able to take the actual chassis and the body, close it together, and it should be able to fit just like that. All right, so I hope this video helped you guys out. I'll take the front and the rear axle because I have them both built. So if you're interested in seeing that, look in the description below. There's going to be a hidden video. All right. So my name is Hugo. Thank you guys for watching. Later.